Homestuck makes many things clear. It will expand on random topics and ideas, and I enjoy the fact it will go on odd tangents and world build about things you would not expect. But one element that has always felt left out and very unclear, that has always struck me as something that could be interesting, is what the fuck actually happens when you, a troll, becomes an adult? Of course, Homestuck gives an answer. You go to war. And that's pretty much it, because that's all it needs. It just needs you, the audience, to know that becoming an adult sucks ass for the purposes of Homestuck's themes. It never needed to be expanded upon. But what if Hussey did? What if Homestuck was some grand space opera about these kids growing up in this adult world? There would need to be expansion. There would need to be specificity. It needs to emphasize more of how awful and confusing becoming an adult is. Maybe there is hope, but the wish for freedom, your hope, will never come. Not grimdark, but definitely shit sucks ass dark. So that's why I'm here. To world build. Well, it's more like society building. For one, I've been thinking about this a lot because it's a fun exercise, taking an element that wasn't heavily built upon in the original work, grabbing and running wild with it. And two, I'm writing a serious story with adult characters in this world, so this is both fun and useful for me to put down somewhere. And who knows, maybe you'll enjoy this, or not. But who the fuck cares? It's my video, I get to choose how to waste my time. Let's set some rules. 1, and this is really important. This takes place when the main troll cast would be adults. In this universe, Homestuck never happens and all 12 trolls continue on with their lives in this empire. This is the timeline. 2. Just to specify, this takes place in a universe where Doc Scratch and Sburb just stopped existing. Since, if they were never real, it would fuck up my world building since the Empire is like this due in part to Doc Scratch. But, since the Countess obviously enjoys this awful shit, she'd probably be happy to continue the Empire, now on her own terms. 3. I will not be doing any map building or dealing with supply line type shit. It's just not that fun for me, and would be deathly boring for you. This is a world building video, not an Aurora 4X tutorial. 4. I can't have living be too horrible. If there's no allure of freedom or something good on the other side, then there's no reason to live. So, you just off yourself. Unfortunately, Troll Camus was culled before he wrote The Myth of Troll Sisyphus. 5. I will primarily be using main Homestuck for my baseline for adult troll society. I will occasionally be using Hive Swap since I don't like many of the world building bits it adds, so I'll only use those when it suits me. 6. Honestly, you can ignore Rule 5. Most of this is made up specifically for the tone of my story. If I was making a comedy, this would lean more into the unserious side of Hussey's world building, rather than taking it seriously. I'm essentially doing what Hussey was making fun of. Additionally, if you have any questions, think I missed something, or if you want me to elaborate about something specific, then please comment down below or DM me on your social media of choice. I might make a follow-up if I get enough questions. For structure, we'll be going from the first moments of adulthood until the inevitable end, whatever that end may be. We'll be hitting all the casts and their roles. Let's get this shit show on the road.
Killed his sensei in a duel and he never said why.
Before you can leave Alternia and truly call yourself an adult, you must pass through the ordeals and rites of maturation. So, what are the ordeals and rites of maturation? It's something never brought up in Homestuck proper, but something added to troll lore in FriendSim. The problem is that they never actually say what they are. It's just some off-planet thing you have to go through. That's it. The rites of maturation are even less clear, since it appears exactly once in all of Homestuck, the only clue being that it has to do something with drones. Here's what we know. Yeah, of course. Is that not where they live? For you? For your adults? Sorry, this is somehow the weirdest thing you've said yet. Once you come of age, you get sent off planet for your ordeals. I don't want to be somebody. At least not your kind of somebody. Tough luck, Toreador. None of us get that choice. If nothing changes by the time your rites of maturation roll around, you're screwed. The drones will cull you in an instant. Have the impending ordeals finally made that little clock start to tick down in that dry, dusty nook of yours? Huh? Did you figure I was the only one who might be loose enough to be willing to clean out the cobwebs before you get shipped off to Space Church and never have the chance again? We're expected to adopt a chaste and ascetic life in service to the continuation of our species, and when we undergo our ordeals and are sent off-world, there's no such thing as sneaking out of the caverns. Maybe I don't need to leave the planet? Maybe I can avoid taking the ordeals altogether? Lots of kids lose their loci. It's just part of life. I would be heading into the ordeals next sweep anyway. I would never have seen her again, but at least I would have gotten the chance to say goodbye, you know? That's the nice part about loose lore like this. I can do whatever I want. So, in Alternia, what is this strange, hushed part about society? Well, it's a pretty simple situation. First off, the rites of maturation and the ordeals are the same thing. I say this because there isn't much to go off of, so not really any evidence any direction. But the ordeals can also refer to just being an adult troll, not just the physical place. So I'll be using ordeals to refer to the rites of maturation because I hate saying rites of maturation. So, the ordeals. It's an off-world test, one not too far from Alternia. Why is it not on Alternia? Wouldn't that be more efficient? Yes, it would be. However, the risk of an attack by cults and rebels on Alternia is too high, so putting it on a different, nearby planet, one still deep into the Troll Empire, close to Alternia, makes sure no Alternian or Universal rebels try to start shit. So, around the 18 to 20-year-old range, aka early 8 sweeps to early 9 sweeps, you take some form of transportation to a ship bay to get sent to the ordeals. The ordeals themselves are known to every troll, and every troll endures them. Whether they are Jade, Rust, or Violet, everyone has to do it. Except for Yellowbloods, but we'll get to them in their own section. It's one of the few times the caste walls are dissolved. And what do the ordeals entail? A test of survival. Once sent in, a troll is sent onto a life-threatening obstacle course to see if they have the strength, agility, and will to survive, aka root out any weak trolls without impunity. If you are seen as weak, the course will not be scared to put you down. Can't have an army full of feeble trolls after all. However, that's only the first part. The second part is the one trolls are really scared of. You have to show you are willing to kill a troll, one of your own kind. This is to cull the population of its pacifists. Everyone fears this part because, what if it's your quadrant mate? What if you need to put down your moirail? But the good news is that no one does. Only the people running it know you don't actually have to kill the other troll. Having 50% of your species die out is wasteful as shit. So if both trolls are shown to have the will to kill, then they are stopped early and told that they both passed. If one troll shows hesitation, then they just let the more worthy troll cull them. If both are pacifistic, then they are both killed after a warning, to see if one can be pushed to violence. Then for some trolls there's an extra section. We'll get to that later during our caste-specific sections. But the majority of trolls then move on to real adult life. And depending on your caste, it could be great or just more hell. So let's get into the army. Ah, the beautiful clusterfuck that is the Troll Empire. A well-oiled machine that should fall apart, but doesn't. It conquers all in its path, in its glorious quest of, conquering. So, how does it work? What's the structure? Well, that's easy. It's the modern American military. Just kidding, but it's essentially a super simplified, nonsensical version of an American space army, aka some bullshit I made up for the plot to work. Because it's pretty boring to just bomb every planet, and the Empire wants to get its hands dirty, they send platoons down onto planets to fuck shit up and make sure the native species is scared shitless of what trolls are capable of. Basically, anything from 1 to 100 platoons of trolls are dropped on a planet with an opposing enemy force. Each platoon is made up of squads. Typically, a squad leader is a mid to high blood, while the squaddies of each squad are typically low to mid bloods, but criminal high bloods can also be made into squaddies. These squads are usually given orders by platoon leaders, always a high blood. Additionally, while there are specific job titles such as Threshucutioner, Cavalry Reapers, Archer Eradicators, and others, I will not be using this system because I just don't find it as fun as just having all the different types of trolls fighting together in one big murder pile. Usually, squads act on their own. However, they can be given platoon-wide orders, just depending on the state of the war and how the platoon leader is feeling. Everything is organized by planet commanders, the ones overseeing an entire planet's operations and making sure that everything is working smoothly. You may ask if it's a good idea for 1 or 2 trolls to run an entire planetary war, and I answer with, it hasn't failed yet. Planetary leaders are not given orders, but more general ideas and directives from system leaders. Can you tell I'm bad at naming things yet? They are the ones who organize and manage everything that happens in a system, both war and production and science and all the other stuff, although they usually defer less important tasks to mid-blood assistants. So yeah, the war hierarchy goes system commander, planet commander, platoon leader, squaddie. Besides the war effort, there is of course stuff like food and equipment production, which is either done by the most horrible of biomechanical equipment or by slaves and lowbloods. Yeah, whatever works for the particular thing. But conquered planets are run by bureaucrats and managers for whatever the people and factories are making. Generally, most planets will only have a few important things on it. This is due to just how many planets the Empire has. Since everyone's at war or working, there's not really anything like Spurbs on these planets. Just your average New York apartments, with an extremely small population of people not doing either of those things, but that's extremely rare. Of course, there are politicians, mid to high bloods who've gotten out of military service either through doing enough good for the Empire or just paying someone off with a shit ton of money. While the Condess has final say on everything and can veto and approve whatever the hell she wants, it doesn't mean she can run an entire galactic empire all by herself, so the many sectors of the Empire are run by these trolls. Some of the governing is about actually making sure the Empire runs and works properly, however, most of it is building complex House of Cards situations in which you try to fuck over anyone who even kind of slights you. So even escaping war doesn't mean your life isn't on the line. Yes, there is a criminal underworld in the Empire, but we'll get to that later. For now, we will take a look at what happens to each individual caste. Hint, it's not good. Ah, the beautiful caste system. Neatly organizing people into different categories and basing how much they're worth on that. Literally nothing could go wrong. Of course, we're going to have to deal with how all groups of trolls are treated and what they do in the Empire, since a Rustblood could never be trusted to be a subjugulator. So we'll go through each caste and touch on how each of them are treated, what kind of jobs they have, and have fun realizing that there is no real ending for like 99% of trolls.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way.
The lowly Rustblood, frontline troops born to die for the Empire. Rustbloods make up a good amount of the bodies for the Empire. They're given basic equipment in line with their strife specibus and thrown into a squad to go fight for the rest of their short, sad, miserable existence. Rusts live and die in the military. There is a second option that's a more roundabout way of dying for the Empire. When the Empire takes over a planet, they enslave the local Xeno population to work in factories or other production jobs. Of course, sometimes there's a slip of the trigger that causes mass death or complete alien genocide. So, in those cases, they call in vast amounts of Rust and Bronze Bloods to do the manual labor as they figure out some other way to expedite the process, or just decide they'll leave the planet cause fuck it, they'll have a replacement at some point. Think becoming a slave is better than a soldier? It's still a slow, agonizing process of knowing you're gonna die having accomplished nothing, as no one will remember you after a week. At least you can do cool things in the military. The luckiest position is as a janitor, or front-end worker. Occasionally, a Rustblood can be chosen to go to a space station and live a comfortable life of being bullied by Highbloods, as you clean up messes or scan items, the low-class jobs, basic shit anyone could do. Although, this gets chosen before military service, so yeah, still no getting out of that one if you're already in. Oh, yeah, almost forgot. Psionic abilities. Since some Rustbloods have very light psionic abilities, not based on electrical impulses, they'll be thrown in with a slightly better, near meaningless rank. Since the psionics are weak, it's mostly a sign for the squad leader to treat you with slightly more pity than the rest, since you can throw knives and reload slightly better than other low bloods. Just don't expect anything to come out of it, unless you have extremely high psionic potential. In that case, you'll get promoted to a special task force, which we'll touch on in the olive section. For now, let's move on to the...
I can't think of a joke for Bronze Bloods, I'm sorry.
Rustbloods with different psionics. Of course, that's simplifying their role greatly within the Empire, but there is a lot of overlap between the two of them. Frontline troops, given basic gear, are occasionally turned into a planet's working class or forced to go work on a ship. However, due to a societal expectation, they love getting into farming and other hard labor. While many can be good farmers, there are those with a more soulful connection to land. AKA, they have psionic connections to nature and animals. These Bronze Bloods will usually be given a nice position of rancher/gardener on a farming planet, which is usually treated with some semblance of respect by the mid-blood managers. They are also the glue that holds these places together, but to other non-gifted Bronze Bloods, they just get shoved into the military, unless they have crazy farming skills, which never really happens. Yeah, the two lowest don't have much in the way of differences from how society treats them, except for very, very specific circumstances. In contrast to our next cast, which is treated very, very differently. Please welcome...
I've actually made the controller float, and without touching anything, I've managed to play the game. It's only happened a few times, but
You're fucked. Goldbloods are the psionic caste. While other caste psionic abilities are connected to more of the spiritual, Goldblood psionics are purely electrical, as in they have a part of their brain dedicated to psionic abilities, sending massive electrical impulses to control gravity and shoot lasers, among other things. And while this may be a great help for the war effort, those electrical impulses are far more useful outside of battle. Once the ordeals are over, the Goldblood is brought into a separate room for a Goldblood intelligence test. This is not a test. It's just a way to knock out the Goldblood, either through blunt force trauma or drugs, and then preparing them to become living batteries. Yeah, it sucks. And most Goldbloods learn that it's coming. They try to get off Alternia before it happens, but most learn far too late. So they just accept it's gonna happen and go along with it. There's no reason to fight the adults or many other trolls who are going to make sure you become a battery. But specifics. Goldbloods operate on a scale from no psionics to insane psionics. We'll be going over 4 levels on this scale. No psionics, little psionics, middling psionics, and a fuck ton of psionics. A Goldblood with no psionics, either through a mutation or through brain destruction, most easily done through the eye, these Goldbloods are just sent into the military like any other low blood. Unless they can pass an aptitude test showing excellence in a field such as hacking, psionic engineering, or if your social media presence is really fucking good. Being a no psionic Goldblood isn't that bad if you planned correctly, although you'll still be treated like shit no matter what. Low-powered Goldbloods have the best fate of all Goldbloods who have psionics, because, once you're knocked out, your psionic control center, known as a blastoria, is extracted along with your heart and stomach, obviously killing you in the process. You might say, wow, that's bad. But I assure you, it gets worse. As a low-power psionic, your blastoria is shoved into smaller electronics, phones, computers, etc. Things that don't require a ton of energy at all times and can be recharged. Then comes medium-powered Goldbloods. When they're knocked out, due to the size of their blastoria, they require the whole brain to function. So the surgeons carefully extract most organs and the whole brain. They are then placed within a generator, large server farm, or a small to medium ship, depending on psionic level. Oh yeah, they're also fully conscious, constantly alive and thinking, as they are nothing more than a brain within a meat-based electrical system. I love biomechanical horror. But besides that, they power larger structures and equipment that usually are constantly running or needs a lot of power when it does run, which requires them to be conscious. Probably. No one has checked if that part's necessary. Aside from ships, which of course are flung at light speeds using the psionic powers of Goldbloods. That does actually require consciousness. The most powerful Goldbloods are your Solixes, Batunas, and your Azdajas. That's not how you pronounce that. Those with power far exceeding all the other tiers. The most powerful are saved for the battleships. Those right below this tier, powerful enough for big ships but not the biggest, are still treated the same. Due to how much ship these Goldbloods will be powering and tossing around the galaxy, none of them can be wasted. They are grafted into the ship, fully conscious to its systems. Your life is painful, every day constantly stressing your psionic abilities, fully conscious and seeing everything that happens. There is no escape. All you can hope for is some rebels to put you out of your misery. So yeah, if you're a Goldblood, you're fucked, just like the next cast.
You're fucking dead.
I'm combining Lime and Mutant together for one reason. Limes just die. If you go to the ordeals even slightly unprepared as a Lime, you're gonna be publicly executed. But if you play your cards right, you can make it past into whatever cast is most believable. But even then, you're probably gonna get found out, and some glory-hungry troll is gonna kill you or capture you. That's it. The reason it's like this is because they make an excellent scapegoat and common enemy for trolls. So, that's their true role. But mutants are a slightly more complicated manner, as not all mutations are made equal. I'm lightly stealing, aka picking and choosing some of the ideas presented by subgrubs and snazzards. There are 3 kinds of mutations: negative, neutral, and non-parel. Alliteration's hard. If you have a negative mutation, such as off-hue blood, psionics constantly killing you, or wings, you're going to be cold unless you can hide it. And while many negative mutations are not inherently negative, like glowing blood, and can even be helpful, like wings, society has deemed it as wrong, and so you'll be cold. Neutral mutations differ because there isn't a stigma, but there's also no benefit to it. A good example of a neutral mutation is Eridan's violet hair streak. There's nothing wrong with it, so it's ignored. And while technically not a mutation, robotic limbs are also put here. Not amazing, but also not making you cull bait. Then, non-parel mutations. Here, you get preferential treatment for war, but most will still see you as a freak. These can range from hyper strength, powerful psionics, and even claws or poison skin. While these can get you weird looks, your commanders will love these mutations, and will usually give you special treatment for being such a good murder machine. Of course, this isn't literally these three, but more vibes based. So you could theoretically survive as a hornless troll if somehow every troll didn't give a shit, but that's a pipe dream. Speaking of preferential treatment,
I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
olive bloods are the start of mid-bloods, technically low bloods, whatever. But unlike the other two mid-bloods, they are pretty much always destined for war. Not shitty enough to be slaves and not good enough to be real bureaucrats. But that doesn't matter. This is the caste that starts getting respect for their fighting abilities. Many olive bloods are very good at fighting and are usually the right-hand man of the squad leader. But there is a subsection of olive bloods, those who are the best of the best, the strongest, the quickest, the sneakiest. These olive bloods make up the rank and file of the Trollian Special Forces, a group made up of the most dangerous and strongest trolls that the Empire has to offer. Strong olive bloods are common enough to be the foot soldiers of this group, with a few becoming stealth operatives. Rusts, indigos, and cobalts are also a part of this group when they are psionically powerful or physically strong. Why is there a special forces for an army that is seemingly made up of special forces?
'Cause fuck them, that's why.
But yeah, if there's a standstill, or they're getting bored, or they just want their takeover to feel special, they'll call them in for a couple of missions. Overall, if you're down with murder and warfare and don't get caught up in the whole finding purpose in the universe thing, being an olive blood ain't half bad. So most olives are quite happy even if they're on the edge of death. Let's take a break from all of this war and violence with the...
Bro, Mr.
Kanaya.
gave us a weird exam, bro. Question 3, symbol is carbon. Bet.
The second smallest caste, depending on the day. This caste has two purposes: keeping the brooding caverns in tip-top shape to make sure that the birth cycle of trolls stays consistently high, and other medical stuff we'll get into later. Once a Jade blood finishes their ordeals, they can request a test to go into a research ship/planet. For the majority, they're sent back to Alternia, right into the caves. Now, at this point, you are no longer allowed to leave the caverns and will be culled if discovered. As an adult Jade, you'll never see the moon. As a Jade, you'll be assigned to a convent who works on a specific part of the caverns, either closely with the Mother Grub or on a more fringe job like cleaning or record keeping, or being a Jade cop. I'm not going to get into the specificity of Mother Grub maintenance, just know that it's very gross and involves a lot of genetic material being cleaned both inside and out. But when you're a new adult, you'll be in a lower position, with each convent being led by one in a higher position. When you're an adolescent Jade, you're treated with a small amount of pity. You're essentially a child, so most mistakes can be forgiven. But becoming an adult means any guardrails are taken off. Higher Jades are essentially in an unquestionable position. They do whatever they feel like and do it with impunity. Very rarely are higher position Jades ever moved out of their position due to a mix of experience and other high position Jades wanting them to stay for political reasons. But it is possible to get a higher position Jade demoted or otherwise kicked out, usually through a bunch of lower position Jades plotting and killing a higher position one, or proving that a higher position Jade has committed treason. But even if that happens, the promotion usually leads to the cycle being repeated. Don't you just love abuse? However, the caverns aren't the only ending for a Jade. Rarely, if they can prove they can be an asset, they can become bioengineers. These few research stations hold Jades to figure out how to continually modify the troll genetic code and how to keep trolls alive and strong, essentially biomedical engineers but for fucked up war things. While these stations are generally more peaceful since higher position trolls don't have full autonomy, there is still tensions and general animosity, but not to the point of the caverns. Also, there's a weird kind of religious thing going on, but I don't really feel like talking about that because I kind of just made it on the spot because I kind of forgot about that. So, as a Jade, you're either locked into a ship doing science or in the caverns helping the continued birthing of your species. There is no way out. This is your life until you die. Good luck. Anyway, deals.
I order Miss Tornado to put her whole butt, and nothing but her butt on my face.
Similar to Jades, Teal Bloods have a special place within the Empire. The vast majority of Teal Bloods aren't immediately enrolled into the military, but are in positions dealing with law and lower bureaucracy. Essentially, desk jockeys. They go through the ordeals and will take an aptitude test in many categories. If a troll shows high enough proficiency, then they'll immediately be sent to the corresponding position. However, most don't hit that level and are sent to war for a few sweeps before getting sent to the position they tested for. But if you're a stupid enough teal blood, then infinite war for you. But that's a pretty small percentage of the teal population, since teals are expected to specialize and learn. The first most common teal blood is a law teal blood, and there are many paths you can take from here. From lawyers, investigators, evidence collectors, etc. The whole process is passed from troll to troll before a suspect is taken to court and probably executed. There are two different ways for a troll to be tried in court. There is high court and low court. High court is for public trials and executions, low court is for private trials and executions. Specifically, high court is just a showy execution. Legislaturators describe two different kinds of jobs, the investigator/bounty hunter side and the lawyer side. Anyone can do both, but most specialize into one side and both help each other. But once the perp is caught, evidence is collected, then sorted through by the lawyer, who also orders all of it into a digestible, easy-to-understand format. Then the court date comes, in which a trial is broadcasted to the public. High court isn't really a trial, it's more of just a way to kill somebody on camera. The teal blood will lay out the evidence, motives, time, weapon, etc. The perpetrator is allowed to defend themselves, but it never really helps. The teal blood is less supposed to give the facts, and more supposed to give a good show, make it interesting. If you're accused in a high court trial, just pray your execution is quick. You're not making it out. Lower court, on the other hand, is far more equal, usually between two teal bloods, but can occasionally have other castes defended by a teal blood. Usually lower courts deal with boring crimes, or through the very slim area of crimes that aren't instant cullings and aren't stuff that just gets a slap on the wrist. But in lower court, the two teals will basically try to outlaw each other when it comes to the slim area of crimes. Both bring up more and more obscure laws to make the other teal give in that they don't know the law is good. But if it's a crime where there's a small amount of evidence, then both use the evidence to argue if the accused is guilty or not. This is the closest to our court system. To specify something, having not a lot of evidence doesn't mean you'll go to lower court. This usually only happens to high bloods or very important trolls. For other trolls, they'll just make up evidence and take you to higher court. For all other teals, they can have a variety of jobs. Anything from accounting, where you're usually dealing with a group of trolls, or a factory/base's money shit. You can be a middleman, such as for Jade Bloods, for platoons, etc., to help communicate the group's needs in dealing with mail and many other things. But in general, teal bloods will deal with the numbers and spreadsheets of the Empire, the oil of the geared machine that is the Empire. Without them, it could run, technically, but with them, they are a force to be reckoned with.
Before we can talk about high bloods, we have to talk about what happens when they fuck up.
Amazing. My social credit up by 15? What the fuck?
A big difference between high bloods and everyone else is how punishment is dealt with. For low and mid bloods, you get culled or sent for a high court trial depending on how cool the traitor's actions were. But as a high blood, post ordeals, there's a bit of wiggle room on how you're punished. Straight cullings rarely happen. Most high blood crimes are ones that get sent to the courts. However, a large amount of punishments, usually not following doctrine correctly or going for personal gain in a way that harms the mission of the Empire or a large amount of fellow trolls in a way that can't be explained as teaching them a lesson. But there are many other crimes. These are given quote-unquote lighter sentences, usually a demotion of some kind, planetary advisors becoming squad leaders, platoon leaders becoming squaddies, etc. These are less punishing and more to humiliate and put the high blood in their place, remind them of how just because they're a high blood on the cast doesn't mean that they're above the law of the Caste. So along with their demotion, they will also be given some kind of disfigurement, just so everyone knows what they've done. For Cobalt bloods, they'll have an eye ripped out. Any mutated eyes will be chosen first, puts all Cobalts on the same level. For Indigo bloods, they'll have an arrow jammed into their side, representing what Darkleer did to the Signless. For Purple bloods, they'll have all their makeup taken away and forced to go cold turkey. You might say, that's not as bad as the others, but this was agreed upon after days of bloody back and forth between the Caste and the Grand High Blood before they came to an agreement. So, we're rolling with it. For Violet bloods, they just have one horn ripped off. There is no historical or symbolic meaning to this punishment. The Caste couldn't think of much else. One constant between all of them is that they have a bio-tracker placed into their arm to make sure they don't run. These are done for two reasons. One, to remind the troll of what they've done, that every day of this horrible existence is because of them, but also to signify what they are to other trolls. Disgraced high bloods have a bit of a reputation of being soft cull bait, not full on everyone get that guy, but many others will look the other way if something were to happen. Mostly, if you're disgraced and end up as a squaddie, you're probably fucked. If you're a squad leader, you're probably fine. But of course, many things can happen. So, if you survive in this very dangerous position for whatever was decided to be the punishment length, then you'll have your position reinstated, and if you had something torn out of you or off of you, they'll put it back free of charge. But most who survive don't. They keep it as a symbol of their tenacity and survival, that even if you try and kill them, they'll bounce back. Anyway, hi Bloods.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Blue Bloods are commanding the squad you see on screen. You might be wondering why I'm putting Cobalt and Indigo Bloods together when I didn't for Bronze and Rust. Well, it's because these are the least interesting and unique castes. They don't have anything unique going on. They're High Bloods, yeah, but not Sea Dwellers or a part of a religion. They just kind of exist, and that's how the Empire treats them. They're practically the same caste and don't have much difference aside from the mutations, but even then, it usually makes them end up in the same place. Cobalts and Indigos make up the lower end of the commanding class. They make up squad leaders and platoon leaders, and maybe planetary leaders, but that one is rare. However, most Blue Bloods don't start in that position. Most don't have that kind of experience, so younger Blue Bloods will be made into squaddies and eventually promoted. This is the most unique thing about the caste, and even then, Teal Bloods can kind of deal with the same situation. However, this is the first caste in which becoming an entertainer is a real possibility and not just getting really lucky. Since they're High Bloods, the Empire is much more willing to put them in the spotlight rather than Mid Bloods and especially Low Bloods. Along with that, Blue Bloods don't have any true role. They aren't expected to focus in on numbers or war or really anything. So as a Blue Blood, they can kinda just do whatever they're proficient at. Good engineer? Go ahead. Good at ordering and archiving? Go ahead. Just know that once you pick your profession, you'll be stuck there, so make sure it's something you like. However, Blue Bloods do have high rates of mutation. Specifically, Cobalts can gain psionic mutations, and Indigos can gain unnatural strength, as stated before. If these mutations are extreme enough, then they can join the Special Forces, but mostly they get ignored. As a Blue Blood, there is no expectation, no forcing into a specific role. You are a High Blood, so be free. Pick your job and never deviate, and just let the Empire forget about you, and try to be happy. It probably won't, but you can still try. Well, if there's any caste with freedom, then it's definitely...
Honestly, I like how Violent J's mindset works. Okay. Yeah, or Shaggy 2 Dope. I'd have them up in the White House.
The most free caste. Wait, you might say, but they're not Violet Bloods. How is the second highest, ignoring Fuchsia, the freest? Shouldn't Violet Bloods be more free? And that's a very reasonable question to ask. It's because of diplomatic immunity. Due to the Grand High Blood's powerful position in the Empire, all purple-blooded juggalos are far safer to do whatever they want. In fact, the Grand High Blood is so powerful that some rumor that he has as much political power as the Condess. And while this is not true, it is alarmingly close to being true. But the Condess knows how to protect her power, so don't worry, Condess fans. She still got it. As a Purple Blood, you are required by the law of the Empire to be a part of the clown religion all other Purple Bloods are a part of. You might say, wait, didn't Homestuck say that Gamesy's religion was niche? Yes. However, do you really think that I'm beholden by canon at this point? Additionally, it's niche because there aren't that many Purple Bloods, and really, only Purple Bloods believe in it. So, on a grander scale, it is niche due to there being relatively not a lot of Purple Bloods. Besides that, I'm not getting into the specifics of the religion other than what changed between Homestuck and its future. Primarily, it was discovered that the modern incarnation of the Juggalo religion was tampered with heavily. Think Arcanum of Steamwork and Magic Obscura. 5 people are going to get this joke, and I love those 5 people. The religion being far more peaceful and not as brutal, while aspects such as the Bacchanalia still exist between both. However, the rampant violent murder sprees weren't a part of it, so a civil war happened between the people who wanted to go back and those who wanted it to stay the way it is. But thanks to the newly appointed Grand High Blood, Gamesy Makara, the rebellion was stamped out. Literally. Pretty quickly too. And now these remnants of pre-change believers live on the edges of the galaxy. However, this does change one thing primarily, and that's quiet ways to insult a Purple Blood. The modern religion refers to their mithril messiahs as God or gods, but it was found that the original incarnation of this religion referred to their gods as Gog. So, those who hate Purple Bloods, which is a lot, say Gog, but those who like Purple Bloods or are neutral say God. Yeah, making Gog technically canon is very funny. I'm sorry, Alienoid. You're not gonna watch this video. Anyway, now that the background information for Purple Bloods is done, let's get to the actual adult life. As a young Purple Blood, you have 2 paths. If you don't have any amazing skills in anything, then you'll get sent to the military. Then, after some time, you can choose to leave and pursue whatever you want. However, if you show any aptitude above a baseline level, then you're allowed to roam free without military service. As a young adult, you're expected to work whatever job you're good at, locked to it for an amount of time, a similar time frame to the non-adept juggalos. You may wonder, what are the job opportunities for a purple blood? It's whatever the fuck you want. Want to choose the religion? Sure, be a monk or archivist. Want to kill? Sure, become a subjugator or laugh assassin. Want to work within the law? Sure, become an honorable fake tyranny. Remember, the real one died, so purple bloods are the replacement judges. Want to do work? Don't know why you would, but sure. The best part? If you get bored, you can just do something else. Show basic competence, then go ahead. What, is someone gonna stop you? And the rest of the religion? Lamau. No. However, there is one exception. If you want to be a commander for the army, then you have to show genuine competence. No wasting resources on that level. So, life as a juggalo? Pretty fucking good, man. Smoking, praying, drinking, pure delicious ecstasy. Even your job, because unlike everyone else, you can do what you want, when you want. Just don't be too stupid. Anyway, on to the pricks.
Stop! Don't kill me!
Violets are commanding the squads you see on screen. Violet Bloods are pricks, hoity-toity assholes who think and are better than you. They are the top of the top, best of the best, but even then, they still don't have the kind of power that a Purple Blood does. Violet Bloods take the top positions. Whatever your job is, a Violet Blood is probably your boss. They, from a young age, are expected to be the best, and in adulthood, that doesn't really change. You are expected to be the best, to do your job damn near perfectly. While young, you're allowed a couple mistakes, but still punished for it, of course. But nothing that bad. But once you become an older adult, then you better have a good excuse for why you fucked up. That's where the second part of being a Violet Blood comes in. To make sure you don't get cold or demoted, you have to be very adept at politics. Every Violet Blood is a politician. All of them are expected to be important, not only focusing on their main job, but also working together with others to make sure that the Empire runs smoothly. This could be something as simple as attending a meeting, or as complicated as making sure that hundreds of fleets get supplied between multiple planets. Even those who run away from politicking can never really escape it. It's a specter controlling every Violet. However, this does have its advantages, primarily making sure that you have excuses in case of a fuck-up. While it is a demanding life, having people that can back you up and forge evidence is very helpful. But for every ally, you have 5 enemies. The main danger of being a Violet Blood isn't really war or anything like that, but your fellow High Bloods. Everybody hates everybody. Friends are rare to come by, while enemies are a dime a dozen. Whether you fucked them over big time or just annoyed them, trolls love having an excuse to hate a guy. Some don't even look for an excuse. But this just adds more complications to your already complicated and stacked life. This sounds like a lot, having to be on your A game all the time, looking and acting your best, with people who want you dead from afar, or worse, want you dead while breathing down your neck. Pretty stressful, right? Yeah. The power that every other High Blood caste has, except for Violets, is being able to chill. Even Mid-Bloods can have this. As a Violet, you don't get a choice. You do your job and you deal with it. Dealing with it usually means the most Trollian way of dealing with it, aka sadistic violence to cool off. So, as a Violet Blood, your life will be long and stressful. Every day is going to have something happen, usually bad. Violets are violent, snobby assholes who know they're better than you. But while Low Bloods expect death, Mid Bloods understand it, Violet Bloods live in fear of it. But now, the true highest.
I mean to beat you to death and drink your blood from a boot.
So, as a Fuchsia Blood, you'll grow up and then fight the Condesce. How does that go? Well... Yeah, you're not fucking winning. So less of a Fuchsia section and more of a what the Condesce is up to section. While the events of Homestuck partially happen, at this point the Condesce has been free for a while, no longer bound by some dumb fuck plan. She's been enjoying herself. She's up to whatever the fuck she wants. If she wants to be on the front lines, let her slay. She wants to do politics, she'll get it. Whatever she wants, she gets. But there's something about that. When you do what you want, you'll see a lot. You'll start to see how samey things are. Over and over, you get bored. Well, maybe bored isn't the right word, but that only makes finding something new all the better. If every troll you see is super violent, meeting a pacifistic is exhilarating. So having done seemingly everything a million times, to the point where everything is boring, the Condesce looks for new, weird experiences. Pacifist trolls, mutants who have survived, rebels and cultists, and with everything else, she'll find it. Despite the repetition of most things, she never knows what she's gonna see next. That's what drives her. With immortality and a warship, she has plenty of time, resources, and power to see weird, new things. Not a part of the future section, but P.S. All of the cast descriptions are not airtight. Some exceptions can happen. A rust blood could become a movie star, a teal blood could be a commander, a violet blood could get a nice quiet life. But these cast descriptions are just for the 90%. Just what your average troll is going to have to deal with. Just felt like specifying that.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Crime Time.
Crime, the underbelly, where undesirables and the secretly powerful lay. Back alleys and secret cities, warehouses in plain sight, and trolls even more glory-hungry than those that are a part of the Empire. It's a cruel world out there, and there are plenty of trolls who will help make it crueler. Everyone you don't find in normal society is a part of the underground. Mutants, powered golds, deserters, and traitors, everyone the Empire hates rotting away in bars in the forgotten parts of the Empire. But that's not all. Along with these dregs, you can also find many, many, many criminal gangs, all looking to get a good chunk of cash and power within the Empire's shadow. The term underworld is pretty literal in this case. Most criminal and traitor hideouts are located underground, in planets throughout Troll Society, most located on barren or sparsely populated planets. This is where the majority live, those just trying to make it while being public enemy number one. But criminal organizations are usually above ground. Warehouses, abandoned factories, anywhere the Empire has left, gangs move in. So now you might say, how does the Empire let such a big, prolific criminal underground go on like this? Mainly because the people profiting off of it are the ones who could stop it. Squad leaders, commanders, bureaucrats, all know where these places are but keep quiet about it. Mainly because they can make some money or get really good services from them. Need a guy dead but don't want to be connected? Hire an assassin. Need some illicit items moved around? Hire a smuggler. No one wants to work with you if you snitched out on one of these hotbeds. Of course these places do get raided and attacked plenty, but far less than you'd think. It's all just a balancing act of keeping your boss and the people helping you happy. However, there is another group of criminals, one who fights for themselves and no one else. Pirates. Unlike other criminal orgs, pirates are always on the move. They don't have many allies. They fight for themselves and loot for themselves. Pirates are usually on the top of everyone's shit list. Becoming a runaway already puts you on a shit list, but becoming a pirate puts you on everyone's shit list. But this does make pirates very loyal to their crews. Everyone's fucked, so no one has a reason to fuck each other over. Then our final groups of criminals in the Empire. Rebel groups and fringe religions. Unlike other criminal organizations, these want the current Empire to fall. Rebel groups usually wanting an ideological change, such as no caste or fuck the Condesce, while religious orgs usually want to fuck the purple caste specifically, such as signless cults, pre-change juggalos, and other varied groups. So these groups do mix a lot. Criminal orgs and pirates want the Empire to stay, so they keep making tons of profit and power. But they still want to provide services to these groups because that's just even more money to make. Although rebel groups are usually the ones that burn out and die the quickest. So the criminal underworld is depressing, on a tightrope, and very, very lucrative.
Your heart has stopped and your brain is cold. You were so dead, and now your body is starting.
Cullings, criminal executions, death in battle,
quiet yet still gruesome assassinations.
There are many ways to die as a troll, and most aren't pretty. But while death itself doesn't matter too much, as most trolls are pretty ready for death, what happens after is pretty important. Can't have corpses lying around, it's very gross. Additionally, this section will assume your death is mostly clean. If you've been completely gored for whatever reason, you're just burned away. So let's go over what your body is going through after your inevitable death. If you're a part of the criminal underground, there are a couple possibilities. If you're killed by a gang, then you're probably going to be burned or buried in a shallow grave. If you die in a more public place, then your body will probably be stolen, stripped of all organs, and sold on the black market. However, if you're a criminal caught by the Empire, then you'll either be cremated and forgotten, or if you committed a very egregious case of treason, strung up in public for people to see. For the rest of the castes, it will be assumed you died legally and without a criminal record. As a lowblood, so rust to olive, you just get cremated. If you have any healthy organs post-death, then they'll be harvested and used. If you're a jade blood in the caverns, you'll be fed to the mother grub to continue the cycle anew. If you're a jade on a research ship, you will be religiously cremated in a very complicated and specific process that we can't get into here. Get ready for the 3-hour video on that matter. For Teal Bloods and Special Forces members who aren't High Bloods, they get a normal burial on a planet designated for graveyards. For High Bloods ignoring Purple Bloods, you usually write a planet in your will and you will be buried in a mausoleum-type building which houses many other High Bloods. For Fuchsias, for some reason my script is blank. Whatever. Something really, really bad happens, and that's all I know, and you didn't hear that from me. Purple Bloods also have a ritualistic way to bury their dead, just like Jade Bloods. It's a long and complex process, but rather than burying them in a mausoleum at the capital church, they are cremated and placed in urns. It has something to do with connecting them to their mithril messiahs. However, after some time, their ashes are taken by the winds to disconnect them from the lands and to fully let them enter the Dark Carnival. Just like dying itself, post-death is varied with many avenues you can go down.
Why the world is going to explode one day.
Non-fat? Exploding world? What the fuck? Is he crazy?
Now you're ready for adult society. Go out there and make the universe your bitch. Unless you're a low blood, then you can't. But yeah, that's about all I can think to put down. I've hit pretty much everything I could think to. Of course, I'm probably missing some very obvious things, and you're yelling at your screen in a furious rage for me to talk about it. If you are, please comment down below if you want more extrapolation on a topic or want me to talk about something I didn't even mention. So yeah, that's about it. See you in 10 years when I use this world building for an actual project. Bye! Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the intricacies of troll pornography and how it's banned.
Oh yeah, also I need to diss Beyond Canon since apparently that's my quote-unquote thing. So, Beyond Canon? More like Beyond Wheel Spinning.